All right, so I think, are live for this roundtable discussion on our favorite show on television right now on streaming services, and that is Stranger Things Season 4, Volume 2. And I brought two friends of mine in tonight to talk about this. Welcome, everyone. All right, so we've got Michael 8 from Septembrio and a friend of mine, Sarah Holquist, from many a year ago, who is definitely a super fan for Stranger Things. So let's get a quick, roundtable comment on what we think of season 4. Sarah, what was your overall take?
Oh, I knew you were going to come to me first. It's been so I have been completely hooked by the season. I was hooked after volume 1. As you can see, I have the official Max sweatshirt actually on because I'm that big of a nerd. And for volume 2, I wasn't sure what to expect, but
Mhm.
I'm feeling a little some kind of way. Like it's
Ah,
not
interesting.
like I loved it, but it's
Mhm.
the penultimate season, and so rightfully so, I feel like I'm hanging, right? I don't feel that usual like nice little bow tie at the end. I feel like, oh, now I need season 5, and I hope they get going.
And
That's
I
how
should
I
say this
feel.
now. This is going to be a spoiler conversation. So if you have not seen
Hmm.
Stranger Things, tune out right now.
That's right. That's
'Cause
right. Fair enough.
there's a whole
Yeah.
bar tonight. So I kind of feel the same way. So volume 1 of season 4, I loved every single minute of it. Like it was a just masterpiece of writing, of directing, of editing. And then volume 2 came out, and I was like, there were so many great moments, but there were aspects of it that I didn't think quite held up as
Oh,
well as the previous seasons. I don't know. What about you, Mike? Goal.
Yeah, I'm with you guys on that. For me, season 1 is just kept remaining to be my favorite, like after season 2 and season
Mhm.
3. And I was a little worried about season 4 overall because there was all these delays. And, for me, I enjoy all the seasons, but like I kept liking the next one less and less. And I was like, what's going to happen? But then the first half of season 4 is amazing, blew me away. It's definitely my second favorite season.
Mhm.
And then the last 2 episodes, because I binged both, it was like 4 hours of Stranger Things all at
yeah.
once.
Yeah.
Maybe that has more to do with it than anything else. Um, but yeah, I'm feeling a little bit fatigued after that. But I'm glad that there's one more season to wrap it up. So we'll
Yeah.
kind of feels like it's incomplete, and I don't think we got that feeling from a season before. So that
Mhm.
probably has something to do with it as well.
Yeah, I think you're right. And for everyone listening, if you want to check out Michael 8's cover of the Stranger Things theme song, it's going to be in the show description below. So just click on that and you go to his video. It's one of the songs we use as bumper music on Paranormal Now. Uh,
Oh, cool.
okay, yeah. So the thing what I had with season 4, the biggest problem I had, I think we can all feel it to some degree, was Eddie Munson.
Mm.
Like I think most. I don't know if anyone didn't like his character, right? Like I feel
What?
like
Oh,
everybody loved his character,
Yeah.
and to see him die like that was horrible for me because I was it really like I understand that Vecna is like one step ahead, right, than the rest of them. So like sacrificing oneself or trying to buy time, their intention was sincere. So even if we knew that it wasn't going to work, they thought it would work. So it's still heroic to do the right thing.
Hmm.
But did he really have to stop and face the bats, or couldn't he have kept riding his bike? Wouldn't that have bought more time?
Yeah, but if he kept running, then he wouldn't have been the hero, Alan.
I
Remember?
know, I know.
I thought
But that
I
I
feel
don't
like I
know.
thought he fell off of his bike. I have to tell you, like I loved Eddie, and like I've been thinking a lot about like
Mhm.
why did they kill him right away, knowing
Yeah.
full well that we were gonna fall in love with him, and I feel like the Duffer Brothers, they're just not messing around. Like they're just breaking our hearts, because that's the part of the story where our hearts get broken. And I think that for Eddie, he represented, like, for Dustin and for Mike, like that belonging.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of this season, I feel that was like a theme. Like for Elle, it was like belonging and bullying. And Eddie was like the one thing in high school, like this great thing, this one thing, like this Dungeons and Dragons guy, right? Like da da da. And I feel like it just like, I feel like I'm managing like my own broken heart with like you know what I mean? Like I'm heartbroken. Like I gotta get over it, and then maybe I'll think about whether they did the right thing to kill him off. But like,
so,
yeah,
right. So you're processing your emotions first
before you can think about it. I think they're not messing around. I think the kids can't win every time.
No, they can't. They can't. I just, my thing was like, if he would have like, I don't know, hit a dead end and then turn around and face them, or I just felt like if he was supposed to buy time for Nancy and Robin and Steve, was that the best course of action, to stop right there and just kind of fight the bats, or would it have been better to just keep riding? I don't know. But I guess in the end, it was still a heroic act, because he was doing what he thought was best in the moment to help everybody else, despite his risk to himself, which was beautiful. But yeah, you're right. I mean, I think the one thing we can take comfort in, I feel like, is that the main characters will not be killed off, and they just introduce a new character like Bob and
the red shirts. But red shirts,
the red shirts, yeah, exactly. But so I don't know. What do you think? Yeah.
Season, it was like Eddie's gonna die. He's way too likable. He's new. Like there's every season. There's Barb, Bob, Alexi, and now it was Eddie. It's just his.
Fair enough.
Those Duffer brothers.
Hey Justin, hey Andy, thanks for joining chat. If you have any comments or questions about Stranger Things, if you guys have seen it, comment in the comment section. And also beware that we are spoiler discussing. So, okay, another thing that came up in the show that I thought was really interesting is the ringing of the chimes, right? So it's like 1, 2, 3, 4 of the clock, and then when we see the Hawkins fault line occur between the two worlds, it's like 4 lines intersecting, creating a cross. And so is that a metaphor for the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse?
Could be. I didn't think about that, but it is sort of an apocalypse because I mean the Upside Down is so chaotic and dangerous that it seems likely that it's not going to be limited to Hawkins, or potentially like won't be like the battle in Hawkins, to contain it there at least, so it doesn't, like the world is going to be at stake, I think, in the next season. So that could be right about that.
Yeah. I mean, that's what I felt. It was like, this is the beginning of the end of the world as we know it. So then, okay.
I didn't think of that, Alan. That makes sense.
Yeah, I guess my hope is that that one is kind of like like an inversion of 11, and 11's an inversion of him. And I do have this fear that she would, if we're going to go down like the biblical route, that she would have to sacrifice herself.
I have totally gone there in my mind, Alan, and
right?
Not that I had made any biblical connection, but just 11's fate. When I think through what would end up happening, it's almost a Harry Potter Voldemort type situation.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
That would be. Do you know what I mean by that, Michael?
Not at all.
Oh, okay. Well, never mind that. Sorry about that. But no more Harry Potter spoilers. Goodness gracious, Alan, you're gonna kick me off. No. But like I take your meaning, and I haven't thought about that in context with one. That it makes me think. I wonder if it's not a coincidence all along that she was 11 in particular,
Mm-hmm.
as
Also,
opposed to 12. Yeah.
Season 1, they kind of, season 1, they didn't know if they were getting another season or not yet, right? So it's like the Duffer Brothers.
Yeah.
I'm sure ideally they planned more, but they knew that they might only get one shot. And the fact that they end season 1 with the suggestion that 11 was gone, and that's how she kind of neutralized the threat, it might be a preview of like how it's going to end. It would be an epic.
That's true.
I could see the whole show ending with, Hopper putting out waffles in the woods again and leaving it at that,
Oh my God, that would be. Ooh, that
A,
would be
a waffle finale. Oh my. Yeah.
Well, I think no matter what, like however they end season 5, they're not going to end it, right? Like they're going to. This is like a new franchise, so I'm sure they're going to keep the door open like Star Wars, right? Like 10, 20 years from now, they're going to bring all the original characters back and do some kind of continuation of the series, because they're already doing a spin-off, I think.
Yes, they have already committed. Oh, sorry, Michael.
No, go ahead. I just asked the question.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So they have totally said that they are doing a spin-off. They're not sure of the timing. That would obviously be after 5, and that Finn Wolfhard is the only person who knows what it is because he guessed correctly. And they told him he was right. So who knows? I can't guess for the life of me what it would be. I guess I could try, but yeah.
And then the prequel, just strange things.
Stranger Thing.
That's kind of strange.
It's off normal things. Well, we're not sure why.
Yeah.
Yeah. I know in the book there's a book, The Talisman. Was it who was reading it? I can't remember. It was a Stephen King novel. And I think the Duffer Brothers are working on a series off that book.
That's
with
correct.
Steve Spielberg.
Oh.
Yeah.
That's cool.
In between volume.
King. Count me in.
Oh yeah, I'm definitely in for sure. Whatever the Duffer Brothers Huffers, whatever the Duffer Brothers have in store, I'm game totally.
Yeah. It's pretty cool. They have the classic story of getting rejected by everybody on Earth. Oh, no one's gonna watch this show about middle schoolers, and yeah.
Yeah, well, I think their brilliance is borrowing from so many different genres, and still making it original at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and these parallels between older pop culture things. What were some of the ones that you guys noticed this season? Because I definitely noticed a lot. There's obviously the Elm Street Parallels were in there.
Yep, totally.
Yeah, you had Robert Englund in the show, so that was an obvious one. Did you guys catch any other ones in there?
Michael Myers.
Oh yeah.
That was her costume in season 2.
That's right. And she ran up to them from behind, right when they were in the Ghostbusters. Yeah.
Right on. Yeah.
Yeah. What? Okay, really quick. What are your favorite seasons, Michael? Is it 1 for sure? Still?
Yes. I don't know. Season will be able to top it. It's just perfect.
Yeah.
So Michael, yours are 1, and then 4, and then
2, and then 3, I think.
And okay. Oh gosh.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't sorted it out yet. 3.
3 is your first.
3 is your favorite.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
And then either 4 or 1, and then 2. You can follow up with me on that point of 2 versus 3.
Yeah. Well, what was it about number 2? Is it because it kind of diverged a little bit with that other story of the other? I forget her name, but
is it 8 or 6?
I think it's 8. Yeah, I think it's 8.
Right.
Oh.
Right.
I remember.
Oh,
Oh, there you go. Yeah.
Ooh. What about you, Michael? What's the deal with 2 for you? I know what it is. I don't have it. Yeah, you go ahead.
What's the deal for season 2 with me? Like, what do I think of it? Or, sorry, what was
I think,
the
well,
question?
Alan, did you ask like where did season 2 kind of fall off, or like why? Like, because it's at the
Yeah,
bottom for both of us.
why wasn't it so good?
Like, why is it at the bottom? I'll
Yeah.
say for
Well, 3
me,
is at the bottom
it's
for me.
you go.
Go, Michael.
Oh,
Go ahead.
sorry, 3 is at the bottom for me, so ours is
Mhm.
different.
Oh,
3,
sorry.
very quickly, I think 3 for me felt like all the like in every other season, all the characters, they're the misfits of
Mhm.
everything. And in season 3, they were like the cool kids shopping at the mall, and it was like the H&M clothing line. It was like that kind of I felt like took over. It didn't feel like the rest of the seasons. And then when season 4 started, it was very interesting because then Eddie says to them, he's like, "When I met you, you were wearing clothing from the Gap that your mom chose." So I was like, okay, now they're misfits again. They're back in the D&D. They're metalheads. This, you know, it felt
Yep.
right.
Interesting.
Yeah, I think 1 still has to be my favorite. I think just because that's when I got attached to the characters, the story, and it's always the origin story. I think that tends to stick with me best. It's then again, that's not necessarily true with Star Wars, because Empire Strikes Back I like better, obviously, than the first Star Wars movie. I think most people do.
Yeah.
And Return of the Jedi, I waver. Sometimes that really is my favorite. Just some of those conversations that occur between the Emperor and Vader and Luke, on the Death Star, and his conversations with Yoda, and it's just, I think what the Duffer Brothers have done is that, and like it's the same thing that makes Star Wars at its best, is the backdrop of the fantasy, and what you're entertained by is the development of the characters and the dialogue. I mean, it's amazing how sophisticated the Duffer Brothers have become in season 4 with their handling of male, female, gay characters, lesbian characters. Like, it doesn't feel like it's written by straight dudes that don't know what they're talking about. Do you know what I mean? And so it's amazing how well they treat each of these characters with respect. But one thing that, in regard to like social commentary, that kind of bothered me a little bit is when they're going to get guns, right? And like I think it was Dusty said something about the Hicks, like referring to the people going to the gun store as Hicks. And I thought at that moment someone would like hit him or something and be like, "Dude," But no, they tripled down on it. Like, it was said 3 times in a row, calling these people who are going to this gun store and buying shotguns and ammo and gear, like whatever, like all Hicks. And it's really a pretty derogatory term when you're using it in media like that. And I thought at some point they were going to walk that back, and like, but they didn't. And I thought that was really weird, because you are the ones that are going into the store buying guns because you feel like you have a need for guns, like to protect yourself. You know what I mean? So I thought it was a little heavy-handed in that regard. So I wasn't sure if they were trying to say something or they were just using vernacular that we would have used in the 80s loosely, because we
feel
did.
Like they do a pretty good job, in my opinion, of not shying away from the realness of the 80s. Let's get real, right? We were all smoking in the mall. And not we were all, I was 5-year-old, but they were smoking in the mall, right? In the 80s, and every which place, right? So like Joyce is smoking in the presence of children in the house, just like everybody was in the 80s,
I grew up with
right?
that. Yeah.
We all grew up this way. And so, but they're also not using outright slurs like what would have been done in the 80s. So I think the Duffer Brothers, I imagine, are trying to like hold in the balance, like, we want to be real about the 80s here, we're not messing around. Joyce is definitely smoking cigarettes, so it's not for blah, blah, blah. But then not being outright discriminatory and offensive.
Well, I think also if you write your characters a certain way, that they are not discriminatory people, but they say things, like I was around other kids that used the N-word growing up.
Sure.
but I didn't use it myself, and I think kids can be raised to a certain degree to like be a little bit smarter about the words that they choose. So I think that helps with that's why their writing is so brilliant, because they write these characters in a way that they're not perfect, but they're good people. They're good-natured people at the heart of all of this,
I
even
think
Eddie,
that's
yeah. Go ahead.
I was ditto Jinx. I was just going to say, like, that's a fair enough explanation for why did Eddie do what he did with the bats. Your original question at the beginning of the podcast, Alan, like, right? Like, he's just this like imperfect child
Exactly.
doing his best, like actual child. One thing I think is really cool, speaking of the character development, I wanted to mention this, and I'm sure you guys know this, but like for everybody, one thing that's really cool that the Duffer Brothers have made clear is like, yes, they've always had a vision for the story, some characters, but they're open to change. They're open to change, and they have changed. And I think some of the most interesting things that we have now are things that have come about as a result of either the actors saying something like, hey, I think the character would really be more like this, or them just seeing chemistry that they didn't expect, like with Steve, the actor Joe Keery, of course, was like, hey, I think Steve's a little one-sided. Can we make him a little bit more of a real person? Like, he's got some good to him, I think. And it was really because of the Duffer Brothers, like, trusting him and interacting with him that we have the Steve we have,
Yeah. I think originally wasn't Steve's going to be killed off?
He might have been, yeah, it was either that or like he was, that's right. He was going to be killed off because they figured he was just going to be this like shallow, unlikable character.
Right, which is what they wrote, like a one-dimensional character originally. That a red shirt ultimately. So I think what happened to Jason is what would have happened to Steve, right?
Right. Yeah, he was like Steve 2.0, but worse,
Exactly. Yeah. Well, I just want to really quick add Ryan Spreck just jumped in here. He said, hello, Hellfire Club. I am literally watching the second half as you were doing this. I'm so sorry I couldn't finish it in time to join you because I invited Ryan to come on, but he didn't watch the whole thing yet. But can't wait to watch this when I finish. Hey, Ryan. Thanks for popping in, man. I appreciate that. Ryan is an up-and-coming preeminent ufologist. So follow his work if you haven't yet. Awesome, dude.
Cool.
All right. So what are your favorite moments? I'll start with mine, and then we'll share our favorite moments of season 4. It could be volume 1, volume 2, whatever. For me, my favorite moment was when Jason and Lucas are battling each other. Like, and that exchange that they had, Lucas, like how he grew in that moment, it was like that was the teary-eyed moment for me. There are all these other moments, everyone's like, I was crying, it's not. To me, that was when I got teared up. Jason says to Lucas, I should have never opened the door, and Lucas says, I should have never knocked. And I was like, dude, that was like one of the most beautiful lines written ever. It just gave me like,
Oh, yeah, I love that for you. That's so cool. That's so Alan. I love it.
Yeah, because I've knocked on some wrong doors in my life, so I appreciate it.
Not what a minute. Yeah. What about Michael?
Yeah. I think my favorite moment of definitely the last 2 episodes was the metal solo in the Upside Down with Eddie, just because it's like I don't even think it was necessary at all, but it's such a rad moment that everyone's like, we just gotta put it in there, and I'm glad they did. Yeah. Sometimes films, they don't have to have a necessary scene, like things you always hear about things getting cut out because it's not necessary. But 2-hour-long episodes, we can get a metal solo in the Upside Down. I think that's all.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Gaten Matarazzo was saying it's like become like the new never-ending story, or I think that's what he was saying, or like it reminds me of the never-ending story moment. Like, oh, thanks for letting us just enjoy this moment of musical greatness.
Yes, exactly. That's what I think they figured that out, and they've done so well with it. I think one of the first moments was was it season 1 when Will and Jonathan are sitting on the bed, they're listening to Jonathan's playing him
The Clash.
the Clash. Yeah. Right. And like that was like one of those first moments where it was really about it was between the two of them, but it was really highlighting the music. And then season 4, volume 1, we had Max's song. Sarah, do you know what song that was?
Well, okay, so that's my favorite moment. So why don't I cover it? Both
Sure,
questions. So that's Kate Bush running up that hill. I am probably personally responsible for her going up in the charts because I've been listening to that song ever since it was in the first episode when it was played for a moment when she was walking into the guidance counselor's office. That is when I was like, oh my God, what was that song? I know that song, I think, and I looked it up and I was like, oh yeah. And then of course, so there were other moments that made me cry, but I cry a lot. So one moment where it was so powerful was of course her running up that hill moment where she in Dear Belly, where she escapes the Vecna, like just everyone's been there. The metaphor is not lost on anybody. Everyone's been there. Like, you're deep in it, difficult time in your life, difficult day, whatever it is. And you're just like reaching, like with all you've got, and I'm like, oh, they did it. I can't believe it. It's so good.
Yeah. God, there's so many good moments.
Yeah.
Michael, what about you? Oh, your moment was the guitar playing moment.
That's right. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Can we say our most painful moments? Is that acceptable for me to suggest a category?
Totally.
It's so terrible, but I have to. Oh my gosh, when Hopper opened the door and it was Joyce, I almost died. I was crying so hard.
That was definitely up there my top moments. I want to say it was when Eddie died, but I think when her limbs started breaking, that it was like just such a shock. I was whoa. I really
happening.
I didn't think the Duffer Brothers would go that far with her. Push it to the edge, but that far, like, to go gore and horror with her character, I was like, oh my God. And then there's the thought where she was not in the original season cast. So does that make her viable to be a red shirt in a sense? Not a real red shirt, but but would they kill Max off? She wasn't the original season 1 cast.
See, that's the
so
thing.
I don't know what's
they killed Eddie, and then immediately after that happened to Max, and you think she's gone too. So it's like you didn't even get a chance to really feel Eddie's death because it was like suddenly just overshadowed.
Yes.
So they made Eddie pretty dirty, I think.
Well, and so many people look like they're about to bite it. Like you have everybody being strangled, the girls with Steve and Lucas. You don't know, like you don't know what's about to happen. Anything can happen. It felt like.
Yeah.
Are they all going? Like I genuinely had no inkling whatsoever.
I
actually thought Joyce was going to die. That was my stupid prediction.
Yeah, it had that kind of Return of the King, Lord of the Rings vibe, where like everybody's in peril and everything looks like it's all going to go to hell. And the word that came to mind when I was watching this was J.R.R. Tolkien's word that he invented called eucatastrophe, which is a sudden turn in fate from catastrophe to the opposite of catastrophe. So I was thinking, okay, that's how we're going to end this, right? But it ended so dark. I mean, it was like this was a worse than Sauron, like this was like 4D chess, and they're playing 2D chess. It was like, oh my God.
Yeah.
What was
Big,
interesting
big,
was
big stuff.
yeah, but the fact that 11 when so a couple things that happened in this regard that I thought was interesting. I'd like to hear your thoughts on it. So 11 is using Max's she's hitchhiking. What was the word they used? Not hitchhiking,
Piggyback.
but piggybacking. Thank you. Max's mind to get to 1. So Max and her are kind of bonded in another way now that they weren't before. And when Max dies, she brings her back. 1 brings her back to life, kind of like Neo in the Matrix with Trinity. Max is clinically dead, which opens up the last gate. But what she said she was like, no, like she's not going to let this happen, and she did something new, something that she'd never done before. And earlier, her and Max had a conversation about something like making up their own rules or making up their like that kind of sisterhood. Like we're gonna do our own thing. We're gonna make up our own rules and I thought like what a it was a kind of a beautiful commentary. I think maybe that's how I read it, but kind of like like F the establishment, like F the hierarchy, the male hierarchy. It's because this is the 80s especially, right? And like we're gonna as women we're gonna work together and we're gonna make our own way and like forget the rules that they've set out for us. We're making our own. I thought that was really beautiful, I think, metaphor. But then when she went into Max's mind, there was nothing there. Like, what does that mean?
Yeah, good question. Because she didn't die; she's basically like in a coma. So what's that suggesting? A good question.
I don't know. I know that people who have been in comas have come out of comas and said, "No, I had some thought. I was there, right?" So is she really is that just her body? It's just her soul in Vecna now. Her mind, her soul, like yeah.
She's clearly not in a regular coma. She's clearly in some kind of Vecna themed coma.
Mm-hmm.
Where to your point, Alan. Yeah, that's clear. That I don't know what, but I don't think it's just a matter of her coming out of a medical coma. Obviously, I think we're meant to wonder what it means.
Yeah,
right. Like, is that they're saying like his 4th victim, like so the 4th death is the thing that's gonna trigger the gates opening, right? So technically she did die, but she's still there, so she might be in between in some way. I'm not sure exactly how they're, but it's just something I thought of. Is like technically she had to die for it to open, so
yeah, exactly.
This is like our Hopper cliffhanger where we're all going to wonder. And then they're going to hopefully tell us something via a trailer about Max's status.
Tease us a little bit. Right. Yeah.
One thing I wanted to bring up, and I don't remember what you said, one of you fellows, that made me think of it was, my instinct when Max's legs were getting broken out was like, oh my God, can they go back in time? Now, I don't know if I've seen too much Back to the Future and Dark on Netflix that I'm like, the solution to everything is to go back in time. It was my first instinct, but funny enough, I wonder if season 5 might have an element of that. Because one thing the Duffer Brothers, of course, there's the business where Nancy notices it's 2 years ago in the Upside Down, right? With her room and everything, right? So the Duffer Brothers, in this interview that they gave a few weeks ago or whatever, said that in season 5, we will find out that there is a significance to the fact that it was frozen at that moment when Will was taken or whatever, and there's a significance to it, and then we'll find out that significance in season 5.
The significance of Will.
Of the Upside Down being frozen at that time of Will's abduction.
Yeah, it is interesting because you've got the clock thing going on. The
clock thing,
yeah, the clock motif, and then it's frozen in time when Will's abducted. So those are two hints that time is somehow a part of this. But here's the thing, though. I was wondering if indeed, like, 11, let's say, finds a way to go back in time and stop all this from the beginning, like prevent one from ever becoming Vecna. Why am I saying that like I'm from Long Island? Vecna.
Vecna.
Vecna. And
I did just see Bernie Sanders at our
yeah.
4th of July party.
Oh, did you?
4th of July. Yeah, we had our parade, and he is traditional
that's awesome.
headliner of it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway.
That's so good. I think leaving Queens. It's my desire to reconnect. But if she does that, none of this happens. If she goes back in time, then none of this happens. She doesn't meet any of these people, and then she's back in the laboratory. How do you
hopefully
move
not.
forward after that? Yeah,
that would be heartbreaking.
That would be heartbreaking. Although it would be good for everybody who's still alive, but for us it would be heartbreaking.
Also, I feel like time travel might be kind of a cop-out plot device this late in the game, so I hope go the traditional route with time travel, but like I don't mind them messing with the dimension of time, because a whole other dimension in the Upside Down, so there's some anomalies there. That's cool, but I hope it's not we can go back in time and
right, and all of a sudden it's like Back to the Future. Yeah. Fair enough, Michael.
Yeah, but you know what Back to the Future did really well though is that the time travel it was problematic, so it wasn't like so clean and easy. It wasn't like bling, everything's fine now. Like it was a challenge because time itself was the centerpiece of that movie, whereas in a story like this, like you said, Michael, like so far along, if you suddenly introduce that now, it just feels like an easy way out, kind of like Lost being like, oh, we were just in purgatory the whole time.
like Lost or something. Oh man.
Lost. That was do you remember Lost, the last episode, where it was like, don't worry about all those mystery questions. It doesn't matter. We were just in purgatory.
I've never seen Lost.
Oh, really?
But it's fair.
It's like an unexpected spoiler tonight.
But I know, right? Like, but like.
Lost,
I was with the Harry Potter one before, right? So it's all I know it's totally fair to assume I would have seen that.
Amazing tasting burrito and enjoying every minute of it, and then on the last bite you see like a caterpillar in there, and you're like, and now you're sick of the whole thing. That's what Lost.
Oh wow!
That's what Lost was like. Yeah.
Well, that's a serious statement. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. You know how many times, Michael, I've thought about rewatching Lost, but then I'm like, because I want to re-enjoy those episodes again, but I can't because I know how it ends, and I'm like,
you know where it goes. Yeah, it goes nowhere.
Exactly.
Speaking of rewatching, I'm interested in doing a rewatch because speaking of the Vecna's clock, people have said that they can hear that clock tone in previous seasons now. At appropriate times, such as when the monsters were attacking and what have you, they're finding them. So I'm like, yeah, right. So I'm gonna see if I can go back with Vecna in mind and see if I can put anything together.
Lucas added things in the previous seasons, and that's probably what it is. I was curious what that was. I was hoping it wouldn't be like that 1000 CI like shoehorned in there, but clock ticking is fine. I'll accept it.
Yes. Oh, okay. So interesting thing, and I think this is the advantage of streaming because I don't think this has been released on DVD or Blu-ray or anything yet, has it? Right.
I mean, I'm saying that like I know. I don't think so. I don't know.
So the Duffer Brothers admitted to making a mistake.
Yeah.
So I think it was a rolling skate, one of those scenes that day when they were in the roller rink. It was the date of Will's birthday. But they
on the camera.
Like they just forgot. Exactly. And I think that's something they can go back and digitally just change, and because it's streaming, it doesn't matter. It's not like a hard disk. I'm wondering if they're going to do that now.
They said they will.
So sad.
Oh, did
Y'all
they?
have to go. Y'all have to go watch
Wow.
this Variety interview because all is revealed.
Okay.
Yeah, they totally were like, "We're so sorry. We're going to George Lucas it."
Got it. Okay. Yeah, I mean, but that's a good, but that's not,
The correct reaction.
yeah, that's a little bit different than being like, Obi-Wan Kenobi not recognizing R2-D2, which is really weird. It's not that level of George Lucas, but
Fair.
all right. So the cliffhanger, we're left with the upside down. Oh, you know what? Okay, this is what I want to ask you about this. So when we see one go into what we assume is the upside down, it looks like this.
Hmm.
It's all gold, yellow hues instead of that red light. So does that mean that this is another dimension and not the upside down? Or did he actually employ some effect that changed the look of the upside down? Because every time we've seen it, it's either like nighttime where it's blue, kind of that moonlight blue tone, or it's red. But this gold tone
Right.
Mm.
has never been there.
That's a keen observation. I mean, I maybe Vecna's been creating the upside down that we're familiar with this whole time somehow. I have no idea.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but
it was.
that he was shaping this world into something. Like it kind of started as a void, and then he's remaking everything. And maybe that's why it turns into almost like a sort of mirror dimension, because he wants to create like the same world but
Yeah.
different. But yeah, it's a good question.
Right. Yes, because this has that kind of like a uncharted world, a desolate look. But the interesting thing is, though, it's not in this still shot, but when one looks, I think, to the right, you see a Demogorgon like crawling up the steps. Did you catch that?
I didn't see that. No.
Yeah. So that little short scene, where he's telling his story. There's a shot, and it's in the distance, but it's climbing up a little rock, and it's a Demogorgon.
Wow.
Got it. So it's like he inherited this other dimension, complete with Demogorgons and all.
I guess, yeah. It seemed to be that way.
It really fixed
Otherwise,
up the place.
he fixed up the place, yeah. But I like your theory, Michael. That's interesting. That he's trying. He tried to make it like the real, the world he came from, like remake it in that image. And maybe
it's a lot to take in, because the Mind Flayer is supposed to be like the formless force of that dimension, and he's the one that kind of shaped it into how we know it. And based from what I can gather, the upside down is almost like him shaping all this formless energy or whatever the Mind Flayer is into what he wants it to be. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know.
No, but maybe that explains to some degree the time freeze. So maybe because we don't have like a timestamp of the exact time Vecna, let's just say hypothetically, created a parallel looking universe within this blank, landscape. Maybe it was right around the time, like right before this whole thing happened with Will being abducted. Maybe it was right then in 1983 when he finally created the mirror version of the real world. And then that's why it was in that moment in 1983 that's why it's stuck there, because it's a facsimile. It's not the real thing. And so it's almost like a ditto copy, but it doesn't exist within the same it doesn't have the same time space continuum that we have, so it doesn't abide by the same rules of physics.
Yeah, no, and Alan, that makes sense. It could have been like an event, right? And like I'm ready to start abducting people, da da da. And then when Nancy was like realizing that it was 2 years ago, one of the things that was like out on her bed or her table, like right, in use were those flashcards that she and Steve were allegedly doing when he wanted to come make out with her. So it kind of, to me, implied that it was that very same week, at least, right? That Will was taken and Barb.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
The significance is at that specific time.
Wow.
And then, so here's the thing.
There you have it.
We solved the problem.
Give us a call, Duffer Brothers.
Yeah.
Will falls off the bike and there's that humanoid silhouette. And of course, we see the Demogorgon later and his face opens up because otherwise he's pretty humanoid looking. But I'm willing to bet that the Duffer Brothers are going to play it in the last season like that was actually Vecna from the start.
Interesting. In the form of a Demogorgon.
No, just because you only see the silhouette, right? So it's just the silhouette of a person.
Okay, like a misdirect. So, I get it. Okay.
Yeah, like I don't think that's what they originally had planned, but I'm willing to bet that they're gonna play it off that all along, and we just didn't know. I see.
I believe that.
Things. Yeah.
So kind of like Voldemort, his shadow essence or something was kind of. He wasn't at full power for whatever reason.
Yeah, and like had to try to take many different options to interact with others. Right, so like that could be the explanation. Like, he tried to be a Demogorgon and then he tries this Mind Flayer gig and with these Demodogs and it just evolved because he's like able to like interact with the Upside Down, so to speak.
Well, yeah, and then if you tie in Master of Puppets song being played, that's kind of Vecna, right? Like he's a puppeteer. He's that. And so, like, all these things are doing his bidding, and he's trying to manipulate the dungeon, the game board, like the Dungeons and Dragons game board. So then, why wouldn't he have avatars or something? But what I didn't get really was like maybe I didn't pick it up in the earlier seasons, but him trying to take 11's powers or trying to work together with her. I felt like that was exposition, but I didn't see like evidence of that leading up to him telling her like, I wanted us to be together, or I wanted to, our powers to be one. But did you see any evidence in previous seasons that would suggest that?
Suggest what, Alan? That there all of this stuff about one?
Yeah, that his intention all along was to, absorb her powers or try to convince her again, like, together we're more powerful, blah, blah, blah. Like, I didn't see anything. I can't think of anything, recollect anything that would suggest that in the previous seasons.
No, I mean, nothing. And additionally, like I don't know about you, I haven't read all the novels. I've read a couple of the novels, but I've read most of the comic books. And have either of you read those?
No, I haven't.
Oh, well,
is there supplemental material?
They do cover some backstories of other of the kids in the lab, and what else? Like Dustin and Susie, how they met at camp. Is something, cool. Like cool stuff. Yeah.
Now I have to check that. Is that a comic or is that the novel?
So there are comics, there are graphic novels, and there are novels. So the only novel I've read, which was actually written by my neighbor, A.R. Capetta, funny enough, they got to write the official, I hope I get this right, I didn't prepare this, August, Mad Max book. That's like the official Netflix book. So I read that one because my neighbor wrote it. But otherwise, I feel like the novels is too much. The novels that are a bridge too far for me. The graphic novels and the comics are super fun.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think you were going somewhere though, and I asked you that
Oh, I
question.
know. Now I probably.
Now I
Oh,
can't
I know.
remember.
In the comics, there's also no suggestion of this business with
Right.
one. Was
Okay.
the point?
Yeah. So that's definitely like a twist in the story. Did you buy it? Did it make sense to you? That's what one.
Yeah, I mean, for me, yeah, I kind of did, Alan. I'm not sure. Yeah, I did, but I also kind of realized that through the Nina thing, we were getting glimpses of
Mhm.
like the most, like what memories were selected for 11 to see, not the whole shebang of like all of their interactions.
Yeah.
But I did.
So I don't want to keep you guys too much longer. So hey, Marco, thanks for popping in. Here's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking that we have to see 8 at some point, right before all this is over. Like, there's no way you can introduce the character of 8, in a couple, what was it, 2 or 3 episodes, I think, of season 2, and we haven't seen her since. I think she's going to come back in season 5 and help 11. And the reason that to me it makes sense is so because now it's all about what's going on in the mindscape, the Freddy Krueger thing, right? So one is now able to piggyback minds to get to the mind flare, Vector one, whatever you want to call him. I heard someone call him VH1, Vector Henry and 1. And
That's cute.
Yeah, and this year in the series is 1986, which is when VH1 was
Nice.
first launched. But anyway,
Nice.
totally everything. But so okay, she can do this mind thing. So Max also has this at least will or strength, or even if she doesn't have some kind of superpower, she has the mental capacity to really challenge and a Vecna, and she can use this thing and kind of hide in light. Like, so she was improving her skills mentally. And then 8, her ability was to convince you're seeing something that's not there. Like having this psychedelic hallucination. So these are all mind connected. So I'm wondering if these 3 are going to somehow become like a super force together against Vecna.
Alan, what if you add in there? Is this too crazy? 11's mom.
Yes, because she's not.
She's still alive.
She's still alive.
She's just in the chair. What if?
Yeah.
Such things happen, and she's able to access her capacities again, and is like able to use her powers.
And then
now I'm just making things up, but
oh, go ahead, Michael.
Or wherever Max happens to be, right?
Wherever Max happens to be. Oh,
yeah,
in that place. Yeah.
Oh, right. Yes.
Yeah, so maybe Max can be like a bridge.
I like it, Michael.
From the other side that they can try to reach onto and get into this other mental realm, whatever it is. And also, Sarah, that works out really well with the whole like 4 horsemen of the apocalypse, because then you have the 4 angels coming. I just made that up. I don't think that's biblical, but whatever. We'll go with that. So 4 angels coming in and like fighting off, that kind of like balance. So you would have these 4 women.
Yeah.
Goodness.
Yeah. And that's the opposite of that. And it's almost like if you're taking biblical references, it's more like the kingdom of heaven. And that's the reality 11 can kind of control. And who knows? It's kind of a weird tangent, but maybe they might go there. Maybe that's where Max is.
Amazing.
Maybe.
Did either of you watch Vikings?
No.
Oh.
I do not.
Oh, darn it.
Speaking
of yes, it's very good. And I don't mean these new ones that are called all these other things. I mean the one that's just called Vikings, and there's like 7 or 8 seasons. It's really good. History Channel. But it's not a nonfiction. It's a fiction based on history.
Mark Hamill did a cameo on it. Was that the one?
Now that I
Cameo.
don't know about.
He played a small role.
Now, if that happened, and I must have missed it, but this doesn't sound familiar. No, speaking of spiritual references, there was the door to get into the Nina project looks like the door to Valhalla, as
Interesting.
presented in that program, and I was so struck by it, but like nobody around me had seen it. Darn it.
Okay.
I need my husband to catch up so he can discuss it with me.
Yeah. Do you think then will the Nina project play some kind of role in it, or is she beyond that now? Because now she can just like go into a tub, it seems like, and do the same thing.
Well, I'm wondering about the Nina crew, if any of them
Yeah.
are alive, et cetera, et cetera. And then I'm wondering about Russia.
Yeah.
What role might Russia play or not play? I don't know.
Do you think Papa's still alive?
No.
No.
What do you think, Michael? You think no?
I don't think they would kill him again and then bring him back.
Again.
He already had one tease death. I think that's the limit. Mm-hmm.
That was a good impression, Michael.
Die once. And then you real die once. That's it.
Yeah.
The limit.
Also, that would undercut, I think, the profound moment. That moment with Eleven and Papa when he's like asking her, tell me you understand. Tell me you understand. It's like a narcissist saying, I want your validation before I die. Like, I need you to tell me that I was okay. I was okay. And it
wasn't all.
It's like, right. And it was so powerful. And she's like, no. She just let it go. She just dropped his hand and walked away. It was so powerful. Yeah, because oftentimes, people, there's a difference between letting go and forgiving. Forgiving is for people who I think are, try to be better, are working at it. They're sincerely sorry for whatever mistake that they've made. But for the other people out there, maybe they're evil or they're narcissistic or whatever it is, those are the people that you don't have to forgive. You just don't have to. You just have to let go and like move on. And I thought that was really, really powerful, because, we're so often just told like you have to, forgive no matter what. It's like, that's not, unless you've been in that kind of relationship that's ongoingly abusive, you shouldn't say that, I think a lot of people say that loosely because maybe they get it from their religion or whatever. So I hope a lot of people, I think there's a lot of young people that that scene hopefully will play in their minds later in life when they're confronted with, those types of people who gaslight you, people who manipulate you, people who play mind games, and you keep giving them the benefit of the doubt, and you just have to let go and just accept that that's who they are.
Nicely done, Alan. I think that heartstring was pulled, but I hadn't quite gotten there yet. And you put that so beautifully, especially like the influence, like the permission. Like actually, you've been taught a young girl might be taught. Well, she grew up in a lab, but like you owe. That's your father.
Right.
You owe it. It's right. But to your very eloquent point, that's not so. You have the right to, live your own life honestly, and that's like totally what she was doing. Yeah, right. And she's so young and she's so confused. So it's so like amazing that she like has that strength in her.
Yeah. And that's what I'm saying. The Duffer Brothers are they're really smart. And not just smart, but I think that when they're developing and when they're writing, my guess is if they don't understand what they're writing about, I'm guessing they call people, they talk to people, they read literature, they try to figure out, what makes sense, what would be going on in someone's mind at this point, because they don't know what it's like to be an 11-year-old girl who, grew up in a lab with an abusive, narcissistic father. So they have to use their imaginations, but also I'm sure that you need some resources to get that right. And they just nailed it so well. Anyway, guys, this has
Agreed.
been awesome. It's been an hour. Thank you so much. I can keep talking about this too, but
Time flies when you're having fun. We can do
Yeah.
a spin-off episode, Alan, about roller rinks.
oh, can we bring back roller rinks? We need to do that. We really
Oh,
do.
they're back. Go back to the city. The city is opening a whole bunch. It's a
Yeah.
revolution.
Isn't that funny? And do you think it's because of Stranger Things that roller rinks are
No.
coming back? Oh.
No, I think it's because of TikTok.
But were the TikTokers inspired by Stranger Things?
No, I think that roller skating somehow is like getting just back
Mhm.
in a lot of different worlds, and people are doing it on TikTok, and it's so wonderful, and everyone wants to do
Mhm.
it.
You know what though? It's like when we were growing up, like the styles of like the 60s and the hippies were like cool in like the early and mid 90s.
Oh yeah,
It's just natural. It's like I see people wearing 80s style clothes and hair now. Like
80s, Alan. Try 90s. Try 90s.
Try 90s too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we're old enough that our high school attire is what's back in high
It's
school.
it's back in. Yes, a niece of mine. I saw her recently, and I looked at her, and I was like, "You look like you're grunge right out of the '90s. Like, you could fit. I could take you, plop you in the '90s, and you would fit right in." It was so funny. Yeah. And she kind of looked at me like, "What?"
Oh, bless.
Yeah. All right, guys. Well, thanks so much for joining. Thanks for everybody for watching. Those that do watch and will watch later. And again, please check out Michael's cover of the Stranger Thing theme
Yeah.
song in the description down below. All right. Peace and love, y'all. And we'll have to do this again. That's season 5.
Yeah.
All right.
It's a date.
It's a date. Okay. Good night, guys.
Good night.